Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, advertisers. Good morning, publishers. My name is Alessandro Lenzi, and I'm the CEO of ExMarketPlace. We are a Google channel partner, and we help publishers monetize their traffic inventory with Google products. We are not only a monetization partner, we are also a technology partner that help enhancing user experience and brand value for the publishers. We also help advertisers to plan their advertising budgets on our Google network. Thank you very much for coming today. I will leave you with Andrea Mora, our Director of Business and Development, that will explain you the ExMarketPlace approach.
So, good morning everybody and welcome to the ExMarketPlace Masterclass for the OMR 2019. As Alessandro said, I'm Andrea Mora, the Business Development Director of ExMarketPlace. And I want to start saying that I'm really excited to be here. There are so many things to see together. And for this reason, I would like to invite all of you at our stand in B6 G11 once the Masterclass is finished. So we can discuss even more in details any point you will see during the Masterclass. In the last period, we collected many problems, many cases from publishers, try to put all of them together and to simplify our approach, our work with them. For this reason, we created this unique approach to simplify all the steps required to help publishers in few important steps. The first one is the brand value. We notice that sometimes publishers are struggling because there are so many aspects, so many tools, so many platforms, so many things to do that they are not able to work properly, not always, but sometimes to increase their brand value. On the other side, actually right now there are so many new products, new platforms, and sometimes it's different to follow all the new innovations, all the new opportunities that the landscape is providing. And because of this complexity, it's difficult to increase the efficiency for publishers. And the consequence of all of this is that sometimes we lose the focus on the main subject of our work, the fundamental piece of our business, people. If we are able to increase the satisfaction of people, if we are able to get them involved on our business, we will have a stable business and a regular growth in the long term. So let's start from a simple example, the ads.text. I think that most of you are familiar with the ads.text. This initiative has been released a few years ago, and the adoption rate is growing. It's very simple. It's just a TXT file on the root domain of the website, and inside of this file, we have to declare all the IDs from our ad platforms, all the ad exchange that we are using to monetize the traffic. There are two only ways. The first one is direct, if we sign directly the contract with the platform. Otherwise, we have to use a reseller providing this platform that is not directly accessible to me. And in this case, we have to declare the ID of these platforms as a reseller. The mission is great, the proposition is welcome from everybody, I think, because it increased the transparency of the programmatic ecosystem. And I think that it solved a big issue that there was before for publishers. Because before this ads.text, publishers received JavaScripts from ad networks or monetization platforms, it was not always possible to understand what kind of channels, what kind of platforms were inside of these JavaScripts. Now, thanks to the ads.txt, we are able to understand what kind of platforms each ad network is using to monetize my inventory. So it seems to be simple, it seems to be fair. But this is just an example we took from a big publisher in Europe. And as you can see, here the transparency is not the best, because all these IDs are coming from just one single ad network monetizing this website. So now my question is, how is that possible that this platform is providing 6 Google IDs as a reseller? ExMarketPlace is a Google channel partner, as Alessandro said. And for this reason, we have our agreement with Google. We have only one Google ID. And when we provide our solution to publishers, we use only one ID. So my question, my doubt is it possible that this company is providing many Google contracts because they don't have their own Google ID? Is it possible that they are putting all together other companies, other intermediaries inside of the chain of the monetization? And this is pretty common. We discuss on a daily basis with Google with the uniqueness of the inventory. So my invite is to understand when you receive some IDs from the ad networks or the monetization platforms, to understand what kind of IDs I'm using. I'm enabling all these platforms to monetize my inventory. So this is another scenario, obviously. I think this is the ideal scenario. As you can see, New York Times is a big publisher, and they have, talking about Google mainly, they have the AdSense, probably is the first, as direct. And the other one is the Ad Exchange. The Ad Exchange is a more sophisticated platform, it's more complex than AdSense. And obviously the New York Times can rely on both as direct. If you don't have a direct relationship with Google for Ad Exchange, then you can ask to a reseller like ExMarketPlace. But as you can see, this is pretty simple. There is nothing strange. So once again, the ads.txt is a simple initiative, but the transparency is not the best. And what about all the other platforms, the Google Analytics, the Ad Exchange, the Ad Manager, the header bidding, the user experience? We could have a problem with all these aspects of our business. I think that probably for small publishers it's even stronger, this problem. Let's take analytics, for instance. How many of you are using analytics? I think many. We notice that when you link AdSense with analytics or Ad Exchange with analytics, we can have a granular control on the revenues at level page, which is great. But when we need to use more sophisticated solutions for lazy loading or header bidding, we don't have the possibility to get the same level of transparency, of traceability inside of analytics. You need the Analytics 360, which is a costly platform. So for small publishers, it's not always possible. So how we can use analytics correctly, how we can convert all the statistics that we have inside of that. To help publishers, Google has created a framework, a group of people working to help the journalism to thrive in the digital age. The proposition, as you can see here, is amazing. Obviously, all of us are welcoming this proposition. But how we can convert these words in actions? To do so, they created a new tool that is called the News Consumer Insights. The News Consumer Insights start from the concept that each page is an opportunity to generate additional programmatic advertising revenues or increase the loyalty. Where should I spend more resources? Where I should spend more time and effort on the loyalty or in the direct monetization of my users? To do this, they created also the audience funnel, which is basically a concept of the e-commerce, where we try to move users along the funnel to get the conversion. Here, the conversion is the subscription to the newsletter, maybe, or to the ad-free version of our website. So we start from the casual readers, all the users generating 1 session per month, then the loyal readers, all the returning users. Then we have the brand lovers, all those users generating more than 15 sessions per month, and in the end we have the subscribers. We can analyze the number of users, page views, time on site, so there are many metrics, all taken from analytics. But this tool is very intuitive because together with the News Consumer Insights, we have also the playbook. The playbook, it's very long. There are many insights also about the search console, the recirculation that we will see later on, and many other things. And thanks to this, I think that this tool is very intuitive. You can use immediately this kind of information, this kind of insights to adapt your strategy, to change something on your business strategy. Here we have also another example of the analysis that we can do with the Google News Consumer Insights. In this case, on top of the slide, we can see the analysis of the loyal readers together with the brand lovers, so the most important segments of the audience funnel. And Google collected 1,000 of websites to have a benchmark. And thanks to this, we can understand where we are placed. For instance, let's take the page per session. As you can see, we can compare our metrics with the benchmark, which is the average value of all the cluster of websites, but also with the best in class. And thanks to this, we can understand, okay, maybe I have to push the user journey, I have to increase my loyalty. Otherwise, if we are doing well, we can maybe push something else, the monetization or the newsletter subscription, because users are loyal. We can also analyze the traffic sources. And to do this, Google has created a new parameter that is called the user value score. The formula to define the user value score is transparent in the News Consumer Insights. So each publisher can even adapt the formula. It is based on the page per session, sessions per users, and so on. So if you want to move the weight, if you want to move your interest in one of those parameters, you can simply adapt the formula and have your own user value score. This parameter is used to analyze all the traffic sources. And this is very important because, once again, we can understand if we want to push more the social traffic or the newsletter, for instance. As you can see on this histogram, we have all the sources. And the email is obviously one of the best because, obviously, subscribers are very loyal. They are already engaged with our content. And for this reason, maybe we have to understand how we can increase that channel. On the other hand, the opposite side is the social, where users are just coming quickly. Maybe it's a quick user experience. We are not increasing the loyalty there. So how we can help publishers? How we can use all of this information? How we can use the News Consumer Insights? We put it all together, all these things, all the platform, and we created 3 simple steps. The first one is the publisher analysis, where we try to understand what's the status of the publisher. The second one is the technical optimization. The technical optimization is complex, and we will see later on, but basically it's based on the product optimization and the ad elements optimization. And the third one is the graphic layout review. All of this is based on the loyalty. We want to increase the loyalty because we think that thanks to the incremental loyalty, thanks to the audience funnel and the analysis of the performance on the News Consumer Insights, we can increase the final value of the publisher. That's why we use the tracker, the News Consumer Insights. So the first step is the publisher status analysis. This is useful for ExMarketPlace, so we can really understand what's the situation of the publisher. Because when we discuss with publishers, we hear from them some things, but then the facts are different sometimes. The publisher analysis can be divided in 2 steps. The first one is the audience analysis, where we think to the users, how they interact with the website or the products in general. And we do a quantitative analysis and a qualitative analysis. When I mean quantitative, I mean page views, impressions, overall revenues. And when I say qualitative, I mean bounce rate, active view, CTR. So we can understand all these metrics about users. On the other hand, we can use, for instance, the Google Lighthouse, which is another great tool, or the Page Speed Insight, but there are many. We rely on the Google products because we plugged all these metrics inside of our platform to track all the performance. And thanks to this, we can analyze, for instance, what's the performance of our website, what is the best practices. There are many other insights into the Google Lighthouse. We follow this, we define some macro goals. If we understand that, for instance, loyalty is not so great, maybe we can try to push users to navigate with new articles, new content, and increase the final loyalty. And we can track the performance on a daily basis or on a monthly basis, thanks to the News Consumer Insights. On the other hand, if we have loyal readers, maybe we can even more push the subscription or even ask them if they want an ad-free version of the website. So thanks to this, we can define some macro goals. And we have the, let's say, a card of the status of the publisher at day one. The second step is obviously the technical optimization. Also, this step is fundamental because we can divide the optimization in two ways. The first one is on the product, and typically it's up to the publisher because thanks to its internal or external IT team, he has to work on the different opportunities of optimization they have. What we do is just to collect all the numbers coming from the lighthouse in our platform. So if they want to work independently, we can just give them the platform to track the balance between the optimization they are doing and the revenues. So they can compare if they are doing well or not this optimization. Otherwise, they can ask to ExMarketPlace, a consultancy service, so we can offer our expertise and our resources to help publishers improving the website or the product performance. The second step of the technical optimization is based on all the ad elements. Because of all these new trends, all these new platforms, all of these header bidding and programmatic, we need to adapt the monetization on each website. To do this, we need to host the ad elements for publishers so we can adapt the setup of each element for them. To do this, we created a sophisticated solution that is called varnish caching, but obviously I'm not an engineer, so I will introduce Stefano Corti, our CTO. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. So as you were saying, in order to optimize from our end, we implemented, out of all the possible solutions, we decided to use Varnish. Now, Varnish is a very powerful and flexible caching system. When we started hosting all the libraries on our end, we found that the problem was we became the bottleneck of the solution. So with Varnish, we found that having caching all the systems will provide a very fast response to the client. The problem that we came with Varnish is that it does not support HTTPS SSL encrypted traffic. So to do this, we decided to use Nginx to decrypt. As you can see, we use Nginx, we'll decrypt the HTTPS traffic, then send it to Varnish, which will check if it has been cached or not, and return it through Nginx, crypted to the client. This system increases the speed of the website or the response times.
Let me continue. And as Stefano said, the Varnish is our solution for the fast delivery of all the resources for the monetization. It's a bit complex, and I can imagine it's not so easy to have all the control of all these elements. But let's move on. Once we have this system, we rely on the Google Ad Manager. The Google Ad Manager is the ad server coming from, provided by Google, and obviously this is the new brand. Before it was the DoubleClick for publisher. And we think this is the best solution for our business because we are even able to set up the ad manager in two different ways. The first one is self-service. In this case, we need an active AdSense account because based on this, we can help publishers to open their own ad manager. ExMarketPlace can help publishers to create their own account on Ad Manager. We need an admin access so we can set up everything correctly for them. And in the end, we need also to do some training, some sessions with the publisher so we can explain them what's the best setup for this platform. There are some pros, obviously, like the transparency, because they can always access to the platform. They can see what we are doing. They can see our optimization and our custom features, our custom setups. They can also be autonomous to set up any kind of campaign. So if they have direct campaigns coming from their buyer, they can set up everything on their hand. And in the end, they keep growing the business with Google because they are still working directly with Google. Obviously, there is a disadvantage in this case that is the time consuming, because I think that it's very expensive in terms of resources to set up everything correctly. On the other hand, the second scenario is the fully managed solution where we provide everything to the publisher. We provide our ad manager with all the products inside. So there is no effort on the trafficking because publishers can rely on our team delivering all sort of campaigns. So if the publisher has a direct campaign, you can simply give us all the ad elements and we can optimize the setup to have the best yield back. There are also some special features on our ad manager. These are some products that are available to the biggest publisher, but when we open at day one the new ad manager, we cannot have all of these. So the first one is the audience suite, for instance. The audience suite is fundamental because it changed the criteria for the targeting of the campaigns. The ad manager is an ad server, so basically you can set up campaigns on browser, geography, connection, or whatever. I used to call this the technical metrics. The audience suite is very important because it changed, obviously, the targeting criteria. It's based on the audience, so we can set up a campaign on the interest of the users. If you have a general website and you have a client looking for sport, you can even decide to deliver the campaign across the network using this filter. Inside of this module, there are all the data management platforms. They are around 300,000, if I'm not wrong. So there are many opportunities to extend the business with clients. The second one is the exchange bidding dynamic allocation. This is a great solution for the header bidding, and we will see later on all the aspects of this platform. Then we have the optimized pricing. This is a beta, so it has been released, I think, in the last 2 weeks. And it's based on the artificial intelligence of Google. And thanks to this solution, publishers can adapt the minimum price of the auction to increase the final yield, the final revenues. We have created the same many times ago, and it's based on our own solution for the artificial intelligence. I don't see any cons, any disadvantage in this scenario. But obviously, if you have one, just let us know so we can work on this. Now, once we have the ad manager integrated with Varnish so as to adapt from remote all the setups, we used to link the AdSense platform. But as we said before, AdSense must be direct. AdSense is only direct. You cannot receive any AdSense ID, any Google ID as direct from a reseller. If you declare a Google ID as direct in the ads.txt, you have to sign the contract with Google. So in this case, Google has created a new platform that is called the AdSense MCM, which stands for Multiple Customer Management. This is really important because for companies like ExMarketPlace, we cannot provide you AdSense. So how we can help you to set up correctly the AdSense account? We can use this platform to ask you an invitation, this screenshot. And in this way, you can accept the AdSense Certified Partner Program terms and conditions. And thanks to this, we are able to access to your account without using any login, username, or password. So there is no transition of details. Once this is done, we are even able to link the AdSense account inside of Ad Manager. So you can have both platforms inside of Ad Manager. In this way, we are able to do some tests, some experiments for publishers, because I heard from publishers that don't know what is the match content. They don't know what are the link units, or they don't run any experiments. They don't use the ad balance. So because of this, we want to help publishers to get more revenues from their AdSense, to understand properly all the opportunities inside of AdSense. And all of this, once again, is transparent, because publishers can always access to the AdSense account platform to see what we are doing. And in any time, they can deactivate the business with the channel part. Obviously, it's not my interest, but publishers can also see what we do and then deactivate the relationship. The second platform is obviously the Ad Exchange. The Ad Exchange is the trading solution powered by Google for all the programmatic. There are many features. It's a huge platform, so I don't have enough time to explain everything, but I'm sure that most of you are already aware of Google Ad Exchange. In the last years, Ad Exchange is following a merging process with DoubleClick for publishers to become Ad Manager. So in the end, Ad Manager will become the unique platform with all of them together. It's available on display, video, in-app, and game, so we have monetization from programmatic on all the environments. And one of the latest news we received from Google last week is that Ad Exchange is passing to the first price in auction. This is a huge change, because till now, the Ad Exchange is using the second price in auction. What does it mean? It means that the Ad Exchange run the auction on the programmatic landscape, it takes the winner with a specific price, but the winner will pay the second price in the auction. I don't know if you are even familiar with Google AdWords, but it's the same process. You can bid something, but you pay less. Now, Google will take, obviously the second price is the effective price paid to the publisher that will compete with all the other campaigns inside of Ad Manager. But now Google is changing this approach with the first price in auction, which is the standard in the landscape. All the other exchanges are working with first price in auction. And I think it's very important to see what will happen in the next days, because surely Google will be able to pay more. Probably buyers have to adapt the bidding strategy on their hand, but also the take rate from Google could be higher because now we have a higher price on the auction. So I really look forward to see what will happen, because in late May we will have 1% of the traffic inside of an exchange transacted in first price in auction. Then in late June we will have 5%, and within the end of the year all the inventory inside of an exchange will pass through the first price in auction. So this is a really huge update. But as I said, Ad Exchange is following a merging process with DFP. And thanks to this, we have now a solution that is really powerful for many aspects. There are many special features of Ad Manager that I don't think are available on any other solution. The first one is the programmatic native. This product is not so new. It has been released to all the Ad Managers in 1st August 2017. So it's not so new. But I want to discuss more. I want to spend some time on the programmatic native, because I see that right now, most of the publishers are still using the same native style all the time. But the fundamental concept of the native is that we have to adapt to customize the style of our ad elements. This is the first moment when we can dedicate time, we can use our colors, our look and feel, our insights, our interests to adapt the monetization on our website. So we can change all the environment where we have all the banners similar on all the website. We have always the same 300 by 250. We have always the 728 by 90 on all the website. This is the moment when we can change this kind of approach. We could even imagine a future without standard banners, where we can edit the title, the image, the subtitle, the font, or whatever you want on your website, as well as on the banners. This kind of solution is very powerful for many aspects. Some of them are here, and obviously one is the Google demand, because if you look to the other ad networks providing native, typically they took the below article placement with a widget that is 3 by 2, or also an infinite scroll, which is, I think, is disruptive for users. In this case, Google is using its millions of clients for just one ad element, just one position. And another benefit is that this format can compete against all the other banners, so as to add pressure on the auction, so as to increase the final revenues. For this reason, we can have even more bids, and we can even increase the final CPM with the minimum price. This kind of format can have video demand, content demand, where with content we mean a text link with image, title, call to action, but also app demand for app install campaigns. From what we collected in the first run, we have seen that the average viewable time is higher than 25%. So users are spending more time in front of this kind of ads. As a consequence, the viewability is higher. And if we think about loyalty, because of the news consumer insights, users are spending more time. So it seems that thanks to the native ad, we can keep users engaged on our website. They can spend more time on the website. You can extend this kind of approach on all the ad formats. The CTR is even higher, is something like 2 times higher. We will see later on some examples. And because of this performance, the native is growing. Since the first day when we activated the native, we noticed that the performance is growing, the take rate is growing. Right now it's up to 50%, but you have to adapt the style. If you take the standard template, there is nothing different. It's always a standard banner. You have to adapt the style, with your own CSS. That's the difference, the real difference of the native. Native, it is not a widget at the end of the page. It's a kind of approach where we want to change the monetization, to use the same, to have continuity on the user experience. And obviously the CPM is much higher for all of these. The second step, the second opportunity, is the multi-sites. Because before, for the programmatic native, we said that programmatic can be in competition with all the standard banners. So how we can do this? For those who are using AdSense inside of Ad Manager, probably you have noticed that you have to duplicate your work. You have to go inside of AdSense, create an ad unit, and then call the ad unit inside of Ad Manager. This is pretty complex, and the optimization is not the best. For this reason, on the merging process of Ad Exchange and DFP, Google has released the multi-sides, where we can create just one creative ID, just one unique ID for all the opportunities. We can add all the sizes in this ID, and the Ad Exchange will run the auction for all these formats, so we can get more bids from buyers. Obviously, how we can adapt the sizes for each device. Thanks to the mapping sites on the web page, on the HTML, we can decide to have some sizes on desktop and others on the mobile. And as you can see here, we have also the fluid, which is basically I think the best size for the native because it's responsive, so it can fit all the space available. And we have also the one by one. I want to underline to highlight the one by one because it's strange for publishers sometimes to hear that we can monetize also the one by one. This is not possible with AdSense. But Ad Exchange is the platform with all the data management platforms inside. So if you want to generate revenues also without displaying any banner, you can even enable the one by one. Obviously, the take rate, the final performance is not huge, but this is another way to sell data. So if you want to increase your pressure, maybe it's valuable to enable also the one by one. So you can generate revenues without any banner on the web page. We can even have a granular control on the sizes because we can set specific prices for the bigger sizes. So if you want to push the 970 by 250, maybe you can ask for an higher CPM. As we said, the setup is very easy because it's just one creative, so on the ad server is straightforward. It's multi-format because thanks to the native, we can have video demand, like an outstream inside of the banner. We can have app install demand. And thanks to this, we can have all the opportunities together. We used to call this the unified auction, where we have all formats, all sizes competing for that ad space. The third step is obviously the artificial intelligence. As we said, Google has just released its own solution, so I really look forward to see what's the performance. But in this case, we used to compare the winning CPM, that is the bid coming from the buyers, from the winning buyer, with the close CPM, that is in the end the second price. There is a mistake on the dates because here we have 29 and here we have 28, but in the end, as you can see, the performance in this blue line is much higher than the standard effective RPM we get from the standard rules. If you're not familiar, on Ad Exchange, we can set a minimum price to get paid. So we can even limit the fee rate. On AdSense, you can have probably 100% on, if you use the ad balance, you can set up the win rate or the showing rate of the ads. But on Ad Exchange, you can even set the minimum price for the auction. And thanks to this, we can save money. We can save ad spaces because we reduce the number of ads. Thanks to the artificial intelligence, we noticed that we can increase the effective RPM by 40% even with a lower fee rate, lower than 100%. So with less banners, we earn more. And this is also good for the loyalty. As we said, we want to increase the brand value thanks to the loyalty. So we have less banners, more revenues, and more loyalty in the long term. But don't forget that the main difference of Ad Exchange versus AdSense is the programmatic framework. The programmatic framework is another topic that is very long. But in this case, just to say that you can negotiate with buyers directly to enable specific campaigns with higher priority, with fixed price, with selected buyers, your premium inventory. So it's very powerful. But don't forget the header bidding. Obviously, in this landscape right now, we talk a lot about header bidding. There are many solutions. There are many adapters. I think there are too many adapters. For those who are using pre-bid, probably you have seen that there are hundreds of adapters. But in the end, the platforms that they are using are always the same. So I think it's a big effort for publishers that have to work hard on the coding of the website. Typically, it takes a long time to run the header bidding, sometimes a second to get the banner on the website. So the latency is also another problem. And obviously troubleshooting, because the setup of the header bidding is very difficult sometimes. And don't forget that we can have even incremental revenues coming from the native. So my question now is it bad or good? Comparing with what we can get from the native, can we spend more resources on the native rather than on the other bidding? Considering the CTR that we can have on the native, as you can see here, if we compare the native CTR with the 300 by 250 is 3 times higher. And more or less the CPC is the same because of the millions of clients coming from Google. This means that we can get 3 times higher CPM. So before I was saying that the final RPM is higher than 50%. This is obviously due to the balance between the share, the take rate of the native, because the native cannot take all the inventory, but only a specific share. Sometimes we have the 300 by 250, sometimes we have the native, otherwise we have other sizes, also the 1 by 1. So is it bad? Is it only bad, the header bidding? Do we have to deactivate, shut down everything? Obviously not. Because Google has released the exchange bidding dynamic allocation that we think is the best solution because it's server to server. I won't discuss in detail the exchange bidding again because it's another big product from Google. But what they did is just to discuss with each exchange how they can solve this coding, this latency, and they integrated the exchange bidding server to server so as to accelerate, to speed up the process during the auction. And they can run the auction in 60 milliseconds. There are another benefit of the exchange bidding, the tracking and the billing, because thanks to Google, we can have all the reporting in the same platform. Instead of Ad Manager, we will have everything, AdSense, Ad Exchange, and all the buyers coming from the exchange bidding or the yield partner. The other one is the billing, because thanks to Google, we don't have to discuss, to negotiate with each exchange the terms and conditions, the currency, the terms of payment. We can just use the same payments with Google, which is net 30. Google selected some partners, only the real platforms, the exchange. So as you can see, some of them are specialized on the applications like Smatu, others are only on the web environment, others are across the board. But if we keep an eye on the future, we can see that there are many other things that have to come. So for instance, the native. As I said before, the native is, I think, one of the best solutions because it can also increase the loyalty. But if we see here, there are no platforms competing for this kind of solution. So I even expect a higher performance in the long term as soon as these platforms will be enabled inside of the native formats. But also the in-stream, if I'm not wrong, in 2018 the in-stream wasn't enabled. It was only on beta. Right now also Yieldmo is on beta, so it's growing. It's something that if we want to work on the innovation, the exchange bidding, it's probably one of the latest product we can use. The Outstream is probably another product that will grow once the better ad standards will be enforced by Google on Google Chrome. This will happen in July of this year. Probably all the overlay ads, all the video outstream that today it's very strong could be stopped, could be affected by these enforcements. And I really think that the outstream of the native will be stronger because it will get more demand from clients that will not be able to spend the budget on that kind of formats because of the overlay, because they are against the better ad standards. So probably the exchange bidding is the best solution. We think it's the best solution to run the header bidding with selected partners. So right now we have seen the first step, the publisher status analysis. Thanks to the news consumer insights and the Lighthouse and also analytics, we are able to collect all the metrics of the publishers, create the table with all the ranks at day one, and we run some optimization on the website and also on the ad element optimizations, mainly through the Google products. Let's move on with the third step, the graphic layout review. Obviously, this is probably the most important step because it's the moment when we decide that everything that is mechanical, is automated, is transformed in a user-friendly point of view. We want to adapt everything for users. The first point, obviously, is the activation of all the native. Here, I'm just showing you again a video, an example of the video outstream I was explaining before. So probably this format, when the overlay ads in outstream will be enforced by the better ad standard, this format could grow a lot. This is the moment when we decide to push the loyalty. As we said, users are spending more time. So the activation of the native is a great opportunity to extend the opportunities in the long term. even if we think again to the exchange bidding, and because we are Italian and we are foodie, I'm reporting here an example of ricetta.it, so I think that it looks great because we have all the same CSS. The style, again, the native means continuity. It seems to be a part of the website, not just the standard 300 by 350. And it looks nice. So I really think that publishers should spend more time working on such elements because I think it's the right thing in the long term, rather than the same 300 by 350, pushing more buyers on that format. The second step of the graphic layout review is obviously the experiments. This is important because I don't think that we will be able to have the best performance from the native at day one, so maybe we have to run some tests. And for this reason, Google released this important solution that it's very intuitive, it's very easy. You can define 2 simple layouts. We remove the call to action, we switch the image with title and the other elements, and then you can see all the metrics. You can compare the performance of CTR, RPM, or whatever. You can decide the share of the traffic, maybe 10% to the experiment style and 90% to the original style. And then after the flight, you have the start date and the end date, you can decide what kind of style you want to keep. Otherwise, in any moment, you can always decide, okay, I want to keep the original. The experiment is not working. So it's very easy. The second experiment we used to run is exactly the ad balance on AdSense. As you can see here, Google is trying to find the best balance between the user experience and the number of ads. And with only 78% of the impressions, we can keep the same amount of revenue because they think that users will spend more time, they will generate more page views, so we don't lose money, but we increase the loyalty. That is, again, is more value. The third point is the recirculation. This point is, again, is available on the playbook of the News Consumer Insights. So you can find more details about the recirculation inside of that tool. But what about the recirculation? I think that many of you are already using a widget or an ad network to push related articles. But we think, again, that probably the AdSense solution is one of the best because of the control we can have. The first one, obviously, the content settings. I don't know if there are other platforms providing the same, but on AdSense Match Content, you can even select what kind of articles you want to push. If you want, for instance, if you have loyal readers, you can even select the publisher, the newsletter subscription. If you have a page where you want to push users to subscribe, you can set up on the match content, please link this page always. And you will always have inside of the widget that kind of content. If you have a sponsored content where you want to push more traffic because you have a campaign running there, maybe you want to push that campaign always on the widget. On the same time, on the opposite side, you can even decide to block some URLs. So if you don't want to push users in a specific landing page, you can simply deactivate that page on the block list. And obviously the time freshness. This is really important if you think to sports website, for instance, you are providing results of last week. You don't want to correlate articles from 1 year. So you can decide the time range where you select the rated articles. The customization is great, and about the match content, I noticed that many publishers are using always the same. Again, they are using the standard match content. It is not useful. They compare the performance with other ad networks where there is a team working always on the back end. And we took the match content as it is. But if we adapt the style, all the different templates that you can see here, we can have more performance on the recirculation, more page views. We tracked even 10% of CTR in this kind of widgets, depending on the style you run. And in the end, the earnings, 10% on the impressions. I saw a face that was scared. Regarding the earnings, it's important to understand again that we are taking demand from Google, which means millions of clients. The average revenue per click are much higher than any other network. If you compare only the RPM of the widget, obviously it could be lower than other solutions with infinite scroll. But what about the loyalty, the recirculation? Those ad networks typically have 1.5 page per session when you run this kind of ad networks. With the match content, we notice that you can increase a lot the user journey. So the real value of the match content is on the subsequent pages you can generate. When you consider the monetization of the match content, you don't have to consider only the CPC, the revenue for each click. You have to consider all the additional pages that you are generating. And the benefit, it's also on the long term, because you will have more loyal readers and probably returning users. So it's very important to consider the match content not only like a widget, but like a tool that you can use to increase your loyalty. The fourth step is the condensation. The condensation is pretty strange. I think it's the moment where ExMarketPlace did its best. And we separated the condensation in few steps. The first one is just the definition of the placements we want to use besides the content. We want to have a simple template. And I want to say this because I noticed that there are many publishers running all sorts of messages on the pages. When you access the page, users is trying to read an article, not to be engaged with tons of messages of subscription, paid links, content correlation, images, outstream videos, unshort ads, or whatever. So there are tons of messages towards the users. So this is just an example. Again, I'm taking 4 placements. These are not ad placements. These are placements where we want to place the ad server. We can have also, the number 3 is a scrolling sidebar if we want to increase the viewability, for instance. So right now we have defined where we want to place all the messages. What does it mean? It means that we want to run, instead of these placements, different finalities. We could have all of these. The content recommendation, maybe through the match content, the services like a newsletter subscription or an app install campaign coming from ourselves, or the e-commerce. If we have our own product, maybe we want to push our product to get paid, to generate revenues. Obviously, the programmatic advertising is on the background. It's always present. But I want to stress the 5th finality, that is nothing. Because as we said here, we are trying to understand what users are seeing when they access to the page. And what I noticed is that typically when you access a web page, an article, you have the title, you have the image, and then you have a content recommendation. I think it's wrong. How is it possible that user is trying to read an article and you are just pushing me other articles? So if we don't have monetization from the programmatic, maybe it's better to use the artificial intelligence to increase the final RPM and just collapse the div if we don't have any buyer. So the nothing finality could be really important for user journey and again, for engagement, because users will go around along the page, generating more revenues, more requests to all these finalities. The 3rd step is the definition of the priorities and the frequencies. I will go quickly through this, but simply here you have to decide what I want to push to the user, what is essential to me, and what I can postpone to the next page. If I have loyal readers, maybe I can decide to set the newsletter subscription because I know they are almost there. I just need to push them the subscription. And then I will send them newsletters to have more brand value from the email channel. Otherwise, if I don't want to run the newsletter, I could have my e-commerce, but I can even put all of them in competition. Let's say we could have 3 impressions per user on the newsletter. If users are not clicking on that, are not engaging, are not converting with the newsletter, maybe we can switch to another finality, the content correlation, or collapse the element, depending on what kind of placement we are considering on the web page. So we don't have to put all of these elements on the web page beside to the content. We are trying to condensate the essential elements and put them in competition. So this is the last point of our masterclass, and we have seen how to review all the layout of the web pages with the native activation to increase the loyalty, the time spent on the website, how to experiment with these native styles to have always the best setup in the long term, how to improve the internal recirculation thanks to widget providing related articles. We have seen the match content, but obviously you can evaluate any other platform. We have seen also the monetization of the match content, that it's fundamental when you consider also the subsequent pages, not only direct monetization. We have seen the condensation, that is the moment when we put all these elements together and we put them in rotation to find what is essential at the first access, what can be postponed to the second. And I would like to give you just a recap of all the product and tools, because our interest is just to simplify the overview of these elements. So Starting from the performance of the website, we are using the ad manager with varnish caching to speed up the fast release of the resources. You can use Lighthouse or page speed, but we also integrated all these metrics inside of our platform. If you want to increase the loyalty, we said the match content, but also the newsletter. If you want to keep users engaged with new content, we can use also the survey. It's really important to highlight the surveys, because thanks to the survey, you can let know to the users that they are important. You are asking them what do they think. We used to rely on the client needs, all the KPI of the campaigns, all our needs in terms of monetization, but it's not so common to ask users what do they think, what do they see when they access the page. And in this way, we notice that users will feel more confident and will return gladly on the website. Obviously, you can do the surveys if you have loyal readers, if you have subscribers, so it's probably one of the latest steps. Regarding the monetization, we listed AdSense together with Ad Exchange for the programmatic, with exchange bidding and the artificial intelligence, and also the e-commerce, but this is just a simple list. It's just a map. You can add any other element you want. And again, you can use our platform to track the revenues when we link all these platforms. In the end, if your finality is the auto promo, maybe you want to push the newsletter. When I say here the newsletter, I mean that you are trying to get more subscribers. For the subscription, I mean, I want to intend the ad-free version. We try to ask users if they are open to pay for an ad-free version of the website. And sometimes these numbers are really important. And you can see the same also on the biggest publishers worldwide. The New York Times is doing this and many others. In the end, also, if you have an app, maybe you want to push your app install to generate additional loyalty and revenues there. Regarding the keynotes, obviously, our intent is just to tell you that you have to keep a simple template with a great usability so as to have great engagement from users in the long term. Focus on native, not only on the monetization, as we said, thanks to the ad exchange, but also on the recommendation through the match content or whatever. Because we noticed that the customization could beat the header bidding, depending on how you set up everything. Could beat the native could beat the header bidding also if you consider the loyalty effects. Keep testing on the style so as to find the right balance between the monetization and the user experience. This is obviously normal, but thanks to the native, we have a new tool, we have a new opportunity to do this. And in particular, this is important for the better ad standards, because as we said in July, Google will start to enforce the better ad standards. And all those overlay ads, all disruptive ads on the web pages could be affected. So if we are able now to innovate our monetization thanks to the native, thanks to the lazy loading, thanks to the unified price in a unified auction, maybe we can get a great advantage in the next months. Define your priorities depending on the products and purpose you have. If you have many messages you want to push to the users, let's try to understand what is really important depending on the loyalty you track. Keep improving, obviously, on all the performance of the website thanks to the Lighthouse. We think that the Lighthouse is really useful, it's very simple, but maybe you have others. And all of this can be measured thanks to the news consumer insights, thanks to the loyalty you see on the funnel. And so you can adapt your strategy whenever you want. And in the end, let's keep clean the ads.x, because it's fundamental to avoid ad fraud, to have only the essential IDs. If you receive many IDs from your partners, your monetization partners, you should ask them why you are giving me so many IDs. And don't forget that we are doing this for our customers, people navigating through our content, through our website, using our tools, viewing our videos. And if we are able to satisfy them, they are the real value of our business. If we are able to increase the loyalty and the retention of our users, we will grow our business for sure. So this is the end of the masterclass. I would like to thank you, all of you. And I don't know if we don't have time. So if you want to go more in details instead of any point we discussed, please come to visit us at our stand so we can see how we can help you, and maybe if you have any doubt, we can have some Q&A session there.